Hello, and welcome to one of our sporadic lecture series videos. Today's topic is entitled 3 Common Pitfalls for the Intermediate to Advanced Lifter. You're doing a minimum of one thing wrong at this minute in time. So this talk is aimed at people who have been lifting for maybe a year and a half, 2 years to about 5 years and have achieved a reasonable level of success as regards to strength levels. I'll actually lay out some standards. They're totally based off my own thoughts on the matter without too much reference other than my own experience as regards to what actually is an intermediate or advanced lifter. Like I said, totally based off my own opinion. Didn't actually look into any literature for that. So, first pitfall number 1 is thinking you're elite. This is basically people who assume they can get away from the basic boring training. This talk's probably going to pertain mainly to powerlifting and also to just general strength training, although a lot of these principles will also tie into CrossFit and weightlifting. They're fairly universal as regards to strength training. What I mean by assuming you can get away from the basic boring training is thinking you can move away from doing just the competition exercises or the basic bread and butter exercises in your program. I think you can move on to things like rotational exercise programs such as Westside. You can move on to like a special sort of loading pattern. For example, something like the cube method, which are designed for more kind of like an equipped or enhanced lifters. These are principles that don't really apply so well to someone who's just kind of coming into the medium term of their lifting career, or someone who doesn't engage the use of PEDs. When you're just kind of training as someone who is just lifting to get stronger, or as like a tested powerlifter, and more so for an unequipped powerlifter, you can't really get away too far away from just doing the competition lifts or your strength training, doing kind of your basic kind of bang for buck exercises for increasing levels of volume from week to week. And ramping up your intensity slowly, just as you accumulate a sufficient volume to allow you to increase your intensity of the training. Using overload stimulus in your training weekly, this pertains to people who think that they can take a powerlifter's program, which is designed to peak for a meet, and use it year round. So if you look, for example, someone like a Screamer from the 93 kilo class, who, as far as I can pertain, I haven't really talked to him. I would like to talk to him. Stephen Manuel, British 105 kilo lifter. I've only really seen him on Facebook and seen his YouTube posts, but you'll see his training. He goes for he'll go for rep PBs pretty much in the build up to a meet. Now I'm inferring that he doesn't do that year round. He might do, I don't know. But certainly the Little Bridges are kind of much more famous powerlifting team or family who base their training off going for like rep PBs or load PBs in training. Or someone like George Lehman who goes for rep PBs all the time and goes for like volume PBs or weight PBs in training for the competition lifts. These guys won't do this all year round. They'll do it in the build up to meets normally. So say in a 10-week build up, they'll have personal bests, or they'll have sets and reps at loads that are ambitious, but they're designed to peak for a meet. So they'll know they will want to hit 450 kilos squat in 10 weeks time. And if you follow like something like the Little Bridge method, I don't know if they've changed it, but they cycle their heavy squats and their heavy deadlifts week on week. So what they'll do is they'll perform like squats as a warm up, and then they'll go into like their heavy deadlift workout, and vice versa. When they're doing a heavy squat workout the next week, they'll use deadlift as a warm up and then go into their heavy squats. And within those sessions, they'll have the worked out targets. They'll work backwards from the number that they want to hit in the meet, and they'll have like a 10 rep number they'll need to hit, an 8 rep number, a 6 rep number, a 4 rep number, and so on and so forth. If you look at something like the Ed Cohen programs, basically they're just a 10-week program that works from 10s down to triples, aiming at the meet. But it doesn't train like that year round. If you listen to Bill Kazmaier talking about how he trained towards competitions, he would do the exact same thing. He'll know 10 weeks out from a meet, these are the loads and the reps he needs to hit this far out coming up to meet. But he says in one of the videos that's floating around online of him talking and discussing his periodization, or as he called it, training cycles. He would just sit at 70%. He would cruise 70% the year round, and he would only ramp up in the building to meet. He would know if he wanted to set a world record in the squat, he'd need to do these workouts leading up to that to be ready come meet day to hit those loads. You can't train like that year round. You can't constantly go for rep PBs or weight PBs all the time, because that's only going to lead to one place, and that's injury. You need some kind of sustainable cyclical programming that's going to see you through as you go. And then finally on this slide, assuming you have the right to an opinion on training. This one's probably a bit cheeky, but there's too many people on the YouTube comment section who have what they would consider to be an informed opinion. It takes a long time to appreciate just how little you know when it comes to training or any kind of knowledge in any kind of realm of human knowledge. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. This is kind of the period when most people will have a well-developed opinion. Certainly, when I had been training for about 2 or 3 years, I was on the MySpace. Yeah, I had a MySpace forums, like just talking absolute shit about training. Thought I knew everything about it. I'd read fuck knows how many books. I was constantly looking at research because it was at university at the time. So, I had a very well-developed opinion. No, I didn't have a well-developed opinion. I just read a bunch of shit. And I was only finding my way as regards to training. I'm still finding my way. I talk a lot less than I used to when it comes to forums and debates. There's not really... In a debate between idiots, no one wins. So, maybe listen more than you talk at this stage would probably be a good bit of advice. Certainly a bit of advice that I probably should have followed when I've been training for 2, 3, or 4 years. Paying attention to the 0.5%. I'm not even calling this the 1% or even the 5% or the training optimization. Trying to optimize your training. Trying to find what little tweaks in your technique you can make to eke out an extra kilo here and there. Or trying to read everyone's training cycles, look at all the best lifters' training cycles. How does Jesse Norris train? How does Andrei Milanichev train? How does Ilya Ilyan train? How does the Bulgarian weightlifting team train? How does the Russian weightlifting team train? How does the Chinese weightlifting team train? Unless you're training within that program under those circumstances, you can't really take away anything other than the basics from those scenarios. Now, this probably pertains quite a lot to weightlifting, because this is probably more where this sort of thing happens, where they worry about, should I use the catapult technique? John North's preaching this, Klokow's preaching this pull technique, Baller teaching this pull technique. Don't worry about it. One is probably minutiae you don't need to pay attention to, and 2 is probably well above your station to be worrying about that sort of crap. If you're looking at the Chinese system, the Bulgarian system, Chinese system, Greek system, Ukrainian system, Polish system of weightlifting, you'll see many different kind of nuanced little things, but what you will see invariably is they will do 2 exercises, clean and jerk and snatch. So if you want to be a weightlifter, you need to have those 2 things in your program. Everything else is up in the air for debate. How you train them, whether you train at high intensity on a regular basis, whether you just train at lower volumes or higher volumes and lower intensities, stick to 80%. Try hone your technique in the kind of 70-80% zone, and just come out of that zone when you're trying to peak or you're in a testing scenario. This is all up for debate. What is not up for debate within a weightlifting program is that you need to snatch and clean and jerk. If you're not doing that and doing that well, then you have no business trying to tweak our things. Should I pull in this manner? Should I pull in that manner? How much should I back squat? How much should I front squat? How much should I pull? How should I pull when I do the pull exercise? Where's my weight in this portion of the lift? None of that shit matters until you've actually kind of nailed down your technique in the competitive lifts. Same goes for powerlifting. You don't need to worry about box squats. You don't need to worry about chains, bands, JM, press. Dave Tate does this. Milanichev trains like that. This guy trains like this. This guy trains like that. It doesn't fucking matter. If you're not doing squat, bench, deadlift regularly in your training and have a good understanding of the technique and have adapted the technique well for your body, then you need to spend time doing that. And that's going to take a while to do. That's not a straightforward process. It's not going to take 2 months to kind of learn how to squat well. It's not going to take 2 months to learn how to bench well. It's not going to take 2 months to learn how to deadlift well. It's going to take years. And it's going to take a lot of trial and error to find out where exactly you should put your feet in the deadlift, how you should hold the bar, where exactly should you put your feet in the squat. You're not really going to pick anything up watching tutorial videos on YouTube outside of the basics. Once it comes to actually personalizing the lift, it is trial and error, and that's where the coach comes in. That's going to help you a lot quicker in that trial and error process, because they have a base of understanding, they have a base of knowledge, and more importantly, they can see you lifting, they can see bar speed, they can see position, whereas all you have is internal feedback, which will only get you so far without a coach. Videoing things can get you to the point, but until you actually have like a technique that works for your body shape, and have a good training base, have a good adherence to training, have a good attention to detail with technique and all of these other kind of basic things, nothing else is really going to help outside of that, really. So get the basics right first before you worry about this bullshit. Trying to optimize your recovery, again, similar sort of thing. Outside of getting your... how many people listening to this video or watching this video right now, listening to the audio or watching this video, how many of you sleep 8 hours every night? Now, I know a lot of people will say, I need 6 hours every night. I only need 5 hours every night to feel good. It's actually been shown, and it's not controversial, but not concrete, but I sat in a presentation given by the Irish rugby team doctor at the time. It was in 2011, I think, talking about they'd split their they split the players into 2 different groups. You'd have the fast group, who were people who would run the sprint times under a certain barrier. They'd jump X height, or they'd broad jump X distance. And the slow players, who would be of a lesser ability in those tasks. And then they followed the recovery following like a test game, and also during like a particularly heavy training period. They found that the guys who were within the fast category, the guys who jumped higher and sprinted faster, took an extra kind of 2 days to recover from high training loads or from test games. They also found that players actually went into quite a large sleep deficit after periods of hard training or physical duress. They'd actually require 9 to 10 hours of sleep to kind of recover from those stresses. So as someone who, if you're watching this, you're engaged in strength, power, speed training, effectively, if you're a weightlifter, you're a powerlifter, you're a strongman, your training relies heavily on these mechanisms. So as someone who trains like that, you do require a larger amount of sleep. So if you're the sort of person who swears that you can get by on 5 to 6 hours of sleep, maybe you need to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep to recover properly from your training. Do you do that? If you are the sort of person who requires 7 to 8 hours, do you sleep 9 to 10 hours? I know everyone has a job and whatnot, probably not everyone's a professional athlete, but if you're going to spend all this time training and spend all this time reading about things, or buying protein powders, or getting your diet right, or doing whatever else you're doing to try to be the best lifter or recreational lifter you can be, or even bodybuilder or whatever, if you're not getting enough sleep, how much do you think the other stuff matters? Because it doesn't matter at all. If you haven't got that, if the number one recovery method is sleep, your number two recovery method is the amount of calories you have in your diet, and probably protein could probably go alongside that. If you don't have sufficient calories to recover, and you don't have sufficient protein to recover, also carbohydrates and fats also come into this, but mainly the calories. If you're not eating enough calories to recover from your training, and you're not sleeping long enough, how much difference do you think that the BCAAs you're taking during training makes? How much difference do you think the skins you're wearing right now, as you listen to this after your leg session, or how much difference do you think they're making? How much difference do you think that foam rolling is making? I tell you now, it doesn't make any difference compared to sleeping properly and eating the correct amount of food, and also the right kinds of food, of course. And that comes down to trying to optimize your nutrition. Don't worry too much outside of understand calories, understand how much calories you need based off your training, understand how much protein you need. You don't need 2 grams per pound of body weight. You need a maximum probably of 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is about roughly 1 gram of protein per pound, or per 2 pounds. Oh Jesus! 1 gram per pound of body weight. It's more than sufficient. It's probably more than you require, unless you're the only people that I've found in the literature that required 3 grams per kilogram. So just over that, like 1.5 gram per pound, were professional weightlifters who probably were also enhanced at the time. So unless you're on steroids and you're a professional strength training athlete, you probably don't require that much protein. Maybe you should look at the fats in your diet, the carbs in your diet. Carbohydrates if you're training with a large volume, probably not so applicable to people who train 1 time a day. But if you train twice a day, as some weightlifters will, or even some powerlifters will, or definitely or most sports athletes will at some stage, they'll do strength training and sports training at some time during the week. You need to refuel the muscle glycogen within your within your body. So, what's your carb intake after training? Do you take sports drinks? What's your strategies regarding that? So the replenishment of your muscle glycogen. If you're not addressing the kind of these bigger picture things, then taking those BCAAs like I mentioned before, or taking all like fish oils or any of these kind of inane supplements that are really a very small percentage factor, probably doesn't matter. So don't worry about optimization, just worry about nailing the basics. Once you start nailing the basics, you're probably going to realize just how little need there is for optimization within your training. And then finally, this probably pertains quite a lot to the second point of the first slide, chasing the gains bow. This is the number one way to get injured in my experience. This is the kind of person that goes more reps, more weight, week in, week out. Just constantly trying to better yourself. This is fine, and this works really well for a beginner, even in the intermediate at this stage. It probably even worked at advanced for some people. But eventually, you're going to realize that by far the best way to get stronger is just the boring old straight sets, straight weight for sets and reps. You don't have to do any fancy bollocks like pyramids or like warm-ups, reps of failure, kind of AMRAP bollocks. All of that works, of course. But what have the majority of the strongest people in the history of the planet done to get strong and remain strong? Weight times reps times sets. That's pretty much it. Everything else is like a variant of it. You're just accumulating volume and accumulating practice and volume over time. And as you look to reach a physical peak, the volume should drop and the intensity should climb. That's programming right there. That's it in a nutshell. Everything else is a derivative of that process. So don't sweat it so much. You look at something like probably the best thing you can do for your programming is just go and look at some of Boral Shiegel's routines. Just don't even do them, just look at them. Look at the front end of the Russian squat routine. Don't worry about the peaking cycle, the second part of it. Just look at the 6-6s part. If you take that 6 workout, just run it over and over again and add weight to each cycle, you will get strong. You'll probably get stronger than you've ever been. Just running that 3 weeks over and over again on maybe 1 or 2 exercises. And then when you want to hit a personal best, just run the peaking phase of it. That's simple. Sets and reps are the king. Smolov versus squat routine, Smolov Jr. Just so you know, these are shock mesocycles. They're basically just programs that have become popular on the internet because they produce a short, sharp return. Yes, you will get stronger on this program, absolutely no doubt. If you complete the Smolov routine, if you complete the Russian squat routine in its entirety with its sessions, you will for a fact get a personal best. Now, if you're like most people who are listening to this, or most powerlifters, you probably train squat once a week. If you train squat once a week, do you think it's a good idea to increase your training volume by 400%, probably more? I ain't going to venture that is not a good idea. And it is probably going to lead to some kind of overuse injury, or it's going to... if you run like a Smolov routine and then try go into normal training, chances are you're probably going to pick up a soft tissue injury. If not straight away, probably sometime in the near future. Looking back on my glute tendinopathy, which I suffered from in 2012, I went from just doing the chasing the gains bows, what we're talking about right now, where I would just do one squat workout and try to do better and better each week, and that worked really well to a point. And then I started running a Russian squat routine. Masters, sorry. So I went from 1 time a week to 2 time a week with deadlift in the program. So effectively I just added 1 extra lower body session into my program. But what happened? After running that program 3 times in a row, my glute went ping. It wasn't a major injury. It was pretty painful. I couldn't squat or deadlift for about 6 months. To really sidetrack my competitive powerlifting career. I haven't competed since. I will compete again. Not sure as of when, but it probably took me till from sort of start of 2013, end of 2012, start of 2013 when it happened. It probably took me about 7 to 8 months of recovery to actually get to where I was at that time. That's just from running a 2 time a week squat program. Off 1 time. So what do you think is going to happen when you run Smolov, which is a 4 time a week program, then do the switching cycle, then do the peaking cycle? Number 1, unless you train with those intensities and those volumes, you're not going to maintain the strength that you've gained, because it's just not going to happen. Number 2, you're vastly increasing the likelihood of an overuse injury. Just don't bother. Just do a sensible program and let the strength gains come as you earn them. You don't have to add 50 pounds to your squat in a month. Do that in a year, and do it constantly, and you will be much stronger in the long run. Of that, I can guarantee you. And then stop paying attention to the weight on the bar. Start paying attention to how you move. This is very important. This is probably the most important thing as a lifter. If you don't have repeatable and excellent technique, then the load on the bar is pretty much irrelevant until it comes to a competition scenario. Until you're competing, or until you're competitive, should I say, maybe at a national or international level, or you just really want to beat somebody, you should just concentrate on your technique. The better your technique is in the long run, I guarantee the more weight you're going to shift, because you become more efficient. Efficiency is strength. Doesn't get stressed enough, I think. The more efficient you are with how you move, the stronger you're going to be. The more efficient you are, the more weight you use with the same amount of physical strength. It's that simple. Two guys can squat. One guy can be weaker than the other guy and squat more. If guy A is massively strong, but has horrendous leverage and technique, then he's going to lift less than someone who is maybe of a lesser physical strength, but of a better technique. So they're going to be able to squat more, deadlift more, because they're going to use more of what they've got. Someone who's got like a car engine, let's say, who has 600 brake horsepower, but has terrible acceleration. Can only use so much of that speed coming out of a 400 meter straight, whereas a car with a lesser power and a better acceleration can attain a much greater speed within the same conditions. Now, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's trying to put across what I'm trying to say. If you have better leverage in your lifts, you have better technique, you will be stronger. Without doing any kind of shock training, like a small loss cycle, without even doing like overload training, just doing training designed to kind of coast to like a 70% load for like 5 sets of 5, if you improve your technique, I guarantee you will get stronger. Pay attention to that rather than the weight on the bar. It's going to lead to less injuries, and it's going to lead to more strength gains in the long run. And then finally, what level am I? Squat, bench, and deadlift. I'm not going to bother touching on weightlifting. Just simply in the squat, bench, deadlift. Like I said at the start of the video, this is just completely anecdotal based off my own opinion. I consider a novice to be anyone who has a less than 1.5 times bodyweight squat or deadlift and less than a 1.2 times bodyweight bench. This is for men as well. I haven't really done any standards for the ladies. Sorry, ladies, I just haven't worked with enough of you. I work with a few now, but not enough to come up with standards. So yeah, for a guy, that generally is going to take you up to like 8 to 12 months of training. A lot of people are going to start higher than that, and it doesn't mean you're not a novice, it just means you're an outlier. Intermediate, I'd say anything from 1.5 to 2.25 times bodyweight squat or deadlift, and from a 1.2 to 1.5 times bodyweight bench. That's going to take a little while to get out of. Like I said, some kind of lighter people are going to hit these targets a lot faster. Some heavy people, like a 140 kilo guy, might not get past a 2.25 times bodyweight squat if they're not really, if they aren't very good genetically, or their training isn't very good. Doesn't mean that they're not an intermediate lifter. These are just arbitrary standards that I think are. We're going to cover probably 80% of people, 80% of the question fairly accurately, based off my own experience. And then advanced, 2.25 to 3 times body weight in the squat and the deadlift, and 1.5 to 1.7 times body weight in the bench. This will take you pretty far. These kind of standards in like a not very well populated federation are probably going to take you to national champion. Within a well populated federation such as the IPF in Ukraine or Russia, these are probably going to make you a top 10 to top 20 finisher at national championships. So a good standard of lifting. And then finally, near natural potential or elite. These are for people who are going to rank as something like the IPF Classic, or rank in like a Russian or American Classic championships. Tested. These are all tested standards as well, not untested. 2.75 to 3 times bodyweight squat, 3.25 plus bodyweight deadlift, and a 2 times plus bodyweight bench. If you can achieve those markers, you're going to be pretty competitive. And you're also probably not going to learn a lot and listen to me talk, unless you're just an absolute freak and you haven't really had to work for what you've got. And like I said at the start, note that these are rough approximations and don't apply to extreme weight classes, namely the sub 69 kilo or the 105 plus kind of kilo class. These probably apply up to about 105. Kind of when guys start getting to 120 kilos and 120 plus, body weight standards, they need their own body weight standards just due to the nature of the weight class. And also for the lighter classes, the same applies, because guys can shift a lot better relative poundages because they're a lot lighter. This relationship only works within a certain kind of bracket well, and that's kind of the bracket I would say it works well within. Thanks for watching. Please leave any questions or comments below. Email speedpowerperformance@gmail.com for any advice or queries. If you want to interest some online coaching, you want some specific programming, you want to just say, hey, your video was good, hey, your video was a bag of shit, you're talking bollocks, shoot me an email, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.